All right, so the next one is about cannabis and the home and public property.
Yeah.
The first one question here is, can my landlord restrict my use of cannabis? Smoking cigarettes is permissible outside. However, I have received notice that no smoking marijuana is permitted anywhere on the property. This city of Calgary plans to ban consumption of cannabis in public spaces, subject to a $100 fine. There are no cafes permitted in Alberta. For people who live in rental units where cannabis is not permitted, there is literally nowhere to consume this now legal product. Does this comply with the new legalization legislation? Does the city or province not have to provide some option for consumption under legalization?
Yeah, so this is a really good example of the very fragmented patchwork of cannabis laws that we are going to have across Canada. The federal government has set out a framework, they've set out some criminal offenses, but they've left it up to the provinces and municipalities, when the provinces delegate it that far, to decide how you're going to buy, what you're going to be able to grow, where you're going to be able to grow it, and when and where you can consume it. And Calgary and a bunch of other municipalities have taken a certain approach that is very conservative. Other areas of the country, you have much more liberal laws. You're going to be able to smoke it essentially anywhere that a cigarette is allowed. So it really is going to vary city to city, and even sometimes within cities, there can be differences between boroughs. So it's difficult to know, first of all, where you're going to be able to smoke. And if you go to a new city and you're worried about it, you know, the best advice is you're going to have to try and look up or ask for some advice from the local municipality. So yes, that's a huge patchwork across the country. In terms of landlords, this also varies province to province. So some of the provincial legislation explicitly says landlords are going to be able to ban all smoking. Other provincial legislation is silent on it, so then it defaults to residential landlord tenancy laws. Basically, it's complicated and it really depends on where you live. But the provinces have enacted laws that give landlords the right to do this in some places. So if you have questions or if you're concerned, the best thing you can do is to try and contact a local tenants' rights group in your city or in your province to try and get some clarity on the scope of a landlord's powers.
So there is a theoretical situation in which there is no actual legal way to consume cannabis, even though it's legal.
Yeah, so I mean, a lot of the landlord laws talk about smoking. So that leaves open edibles. And you're not going to be able to buy edibles right at the beginning, but you can make your own edibles. So you could, in some situations, go buy your cannabis from the authorized retailer, bring it home, bake it, and then consume it at home, right? But yeah, for people who are in restrictive municipalities with landlords that have that power, smoking is probably going to be difficult. You have to try and find a friend who lives in an apartment where that's allowed, or maybe hopefully someone who owns their own home, and then there's much greater scope to smoke.